In this video, we're going to talk about some effects that we can apply to materials in Blender. In particular, we're going to work with maps. Assigning maps in particular channels of the material, we can get, as you can see, different effects, and we can guide the effect through pixels, through information based on essentially black and white color. So for example, in this first sphere that you see here, which is like an emissive sphere, we're gonna guide the emissive effect through a particular map so that it's not gonna emit light on from every part of the object, but only from certain parts of the objects. The same thing goes for other effects like transparency, like glass effect, and also this effect here, it's called also alpha channel or cutout effect, where we can essentially get rid of the material in some part of the object and keep the material in other parts of the object. And then we have displacement, which is a 3D extrusion of the material based on the map. So it's not a fake 3D superficial effect like bump or normal effect, but it's an actual extrusion of the texture starting from the surface of the material. And you can also see the displacement effect applied here to the floor of this scene. So you can use it to really simulate, let's say, the parts of a material like coming out, like think about bricks or tiles that they actually have really strong 3D extrusion. And so sometimes some of these effects can be used to improve your scene, but displacement, it's a really heavy effect if we compare that to bump and normal. So bump and normal are like fake 3D effects to keep the scene not too heavy. Same goes for the alpha channel effect or opacity effect or cutout effect. So for example here, I've added a tree, but this is a 2D tree actually, but from a distance it doesn't matter. But this is way more lighter than what a 3D tree would be. And also you can see here with this logo I've applied an alpha channel as well. So it can be used also for graphic design, not only for visual. So let's get started. I'm gonna switch to the previous scene that we used in the previous video to explain how we can apply PBR textures and create materials from them. So we created a couple of materials for the floor and for the walls, and also how we can apply different materials to different parts of the object. So on this wall here, we created a PBR material using PBR texture from polyhaven.com. So what we did, it was bring in the textures and then connect the correct texture to the correct channel. So normal map to simulate 3D effect of the bricks. And again, we can do that with a normal map or with a bump map or with the displacement. But displacement is going to be heavier. And there you go. Then we have the roughness channel and the standard diffuse or base color here channel. So we saw how we can download textures from Polyhaven and then create a material from them. But we also downloaded this for the floor, which is from this author here. And sometimes you will find extra textures for roughness, bump, normal, and things like that, but usually you don't. So sometimes you have websites that will give you the complete package of textures. Sometimes you only will get the diffuse, which is the generic one. And well, this is not enough to create, let's say, a really realistic PBR material. So what you can do is use some extra software, or in this case, this is a website called Normal Map Online. So you just type here in Google Normal Map Online and gets into this first result. And this is open source web app application. So here you can see that you can generate many textures starting from a texture that you have downloaded. So if you don't have the other ones, you can generate them from here. You can do that also in Photoshop, and there are also other applications that will help you to create the other textures, but this one here is free, it's online, so I believe it's a good choice. So here we can go to pictures, and this is where we're going to upload picture that we got from the web. So I'm just gonna click on this. You can drag and drop, or you can just apply here. Okay, so you can see that this is the material right now, and we can also change we can zoom in so we can see the effect. And of course, if you have more pixels, it's gonna be better. And we can also apply environment to see how much is reflective, and you can see this is really a lot reflective. We can also change here the type of object that we want to use to preview the material. So essentially, from here, we just get into the middle part and we start to generate the different textures. So right now we are in normal mode. So if I start to change these parameters, I will get different normal maps. So I can try to understand the strength of this. If it's too much, I can lower it down. I can, like play around this until I get the one that I'm looking for. And I can also use this height thing, or I can invert it. So I can play around until I get the one that I want. And when I'm finished, I'm gonna select the format. So let's say PNG, and then click on download. And I'm going to download it here. You can see I've created a folder. So I'm gonna call this normal map. So this is gonna be the wooden floor or parquet normal map, and save it. And then I can do the same thing with the displacement. So I can go here and say, okay, maybe I want something real strong for this effect. I want something to be really extruded. So remember that in the displacement, the white represents the extruded part, the black, the part that is not going to be extruded, the grays are the middle ground. So again, I'm going to click on download and save it and continue. So I can create an ambient occlusion map, which is for another purpose. It's basically to tell where the material is gonna receive more shadows or more lights. And again, it's all about the white, the blacks, and the grays. So I'm gonna click download and save this as well. I can also choose all and download everything at once. And then we have the specular. Now remember that specular is the opposite of roughness. So it means that you are creating something really reflective, especially when this is pretty bright. Now when you use the specular map, the white represents the reflections or the reflectivity or the glossiness of the material. When you are in the roughness, it goes all the other way. So essentially here, when you have dark texture in the specular, there's not going to be really reflective, and you can see that we turn this real down. We can also check the displacement effect a little bit. Okay, and so when you have if you need to create specular or glossiness or metallic map, you should go into something like more dark like this. Instead, when you do roughness, you should have something pretty white like that. You can also invert the maps in Blender, or you can invert in any software, basically, any photographic software. But in this case, just to create a roughness, I'm just gonna do this pretty bright, and I'm gonna save it. So I'm gonna download. I'm gonna call this roughness. Okay. And if I want to do specular, I'm gonna go like into pretty black like this and save this. So download and save this as specular, or let's call it glossiness. Okay, so we have everything we need. We created everything ourselves. So we're gonna get back into our scene, but if you want, you can also donate here to thank the author of this website. So let's get back into the scene, and I'm going to select the floor here. And we can see that this is a simple material with only the base color. So we're gonna apply the others. Gonna make this, I'm gonna expand this, and we're gonna do this just as usual. What we can do is just copy and paste a node here, and again, paste it again. And we're going to go into the folder here. where we generated the maps. So the first one we're gonna use is the roughness. So remember that roughness needs to be pretty bright for this material, at least, because it has to be not too reflective. And I'm gonna apply also the mapping. And we're still using some generic mapping. We're gonna see then how we can use UV mapping, which is a little bit more advanced. Same thing goes for this and the normal. And in this case, we're gonna get the normal. Where is, well, this could be this one here or this one here. You can try many times for many different. Okay, so we have everything now in place. Remember, if to get down the specular here, or you can also guide the specularity. So you can do that with a standard parameter, or you can create a texture for that also. Now, I will try to do that. Always try to experiment, and this is the way you're gonna learn to manage all these things. So I'm gonna apply this black specular map, or this one here. So you can create more than one and then test it. Okay, now remember that every time you need to test, you need to switch into cycles, and perhaps you can create a region, as we already know how to do. So Control B and wait for the preview. So we can do some tests and see if the material is actually coming out the way we imagined it. Now let's talk about displacement. So displacement is going to be something stronger and more visible than when you use a bump or a normal effect.